When you think of an ultra-luxurious and prestigious luxury coupe, it's pretty hard to beat the entire package of the Bentley Continental GT. This nameplate has been in the US since 2003, and it has been accredited with essentially saving Bentley because the Continental roughly accounts for about 30% of the total sales globally for Bentley as a brand. Now, about 4 years ago, the company introduced an all-new third-generation Continental GT, moving it to an all-new platform that it shares with the Porsche Panamera. And last year, we had the distinct honor of testing out the Speed version, which has the 6-liter W12 twin-turbo engine, which has been discontinued, replaced by a plug-in hybrid V8. However, as you can see this week, Bentley has loaned us essentially a more modest trim level. This is known as the Continental GT Azure, equipped with the standard 4-liter twin-turbo V8. And the big question I want answered, if you guys are a wealthy individual with at least $250,000 to spend and you want a Grand Tour that's a lot more rare versus your neighbor's Mercedes or BMW, how does the 2024 Continental GT Azure stack up? Stay tuned to find out. So before we start talking about the gorgeous exterior styling of this luxury GT coupe, I thought I'd pop the hood and remind you guys what's powering this thing. Now, here in the US, Bentley offered a choice of two engines, either a 4-liter twin-turbo V8 or a 6-liter W12. The 12-cylinder was discontinued last year, leaving only the base engine as the only powertrain for now. However, this is anything but basic. And when you look underneath this hood, you're going to notice that the actual configuration of the engine, where it's placed, is pretty far back behind the front axle. And that has to do, of course, with the weight distribution, because this 4-liter double overhead cam, direct injection, twin turbocharged V8 with a hot V configuration has essentially lifted out of the old 2020 to 2021 Porsche Panamera Turbo. In the Bentley version, or the Bentley GT, it makes 542 horsepower and 568 pound-feet of torque. It essentially matches the output of the Porsche Panamera Turbo, and it all goes out through an 8-speed dual-clutch transmission. It's essentially a variation of the Porsche PDK. However, Bentley engineers stress they really went through great lengths to, tune out a lot of the shift shock at low speeds that you experience with a dual-clutch. It feels a lot like a traditional automatic at low speeds, but then shifts very quickly at high speeds, like a dual clutch, which we'll talk about later on in the driving scene. All-wheel drive is going to be standard on this model. It has a rear drive biased all-wheel drive with a limited slip diff. Bentley says in sport mode, it can send up to 80% of the torque to the rear. In everyday driving, it tends to do a 55-45 torque split. And in terms of fuel efficiency, in case you're wondering, it's rated at 14 in the city, 22 on the highway. It's got a 24-gallon fuel tank. You better make sure you put premium in this car, and it'll do around 400 miles of range on a full tank because of that large fuel tank capacity. Now, Bentley claims 0 to 60 in 3.9 seconds. We'll get it out on the road. We'll see what we actually get with our testing equipment. It has a top speed of just shy of 200 miles an hour at 198 miles an hour. And as this car sits, it weighs in at just over 4,700 pounds. Compared to the Speed version that I tested last year, this has roughly 100 less horsepower, but it also weighs about 300 pounds less. Sadly, even though it's slightly more fuel efficient, it is still hit with a $1,000 gas guzzler tax. Remember, Bentley just showed off a new version of the Continental GT Speed, which has this V8 with an electric motor that's also been borrowed from the Panamera e-hybrid. That will deliver up to 771 horsepower, which I'm looking forward to hopefully driving sometime early next year. But let's go ahead and close up this hood and talk about the exterior styling. Now, compared to the Speed that I tested last year, this model has a slightly different look to it. First of all, the color is called Old English White. It's not necessarily my favorite in terms of white exterior colors. It looks a little bit too old man pearly white, a cream color, but it definitely goes well with the stately appearance of the Continental. You can see the hood is very, very long. It's got these really nice creases. You have the signature jeweled, crystal-like full LED headlights with the twin design look, where you see the right outer portion is the LED turn signal and daytime running light, and then you can see the headlight is a low and high beam LED, and I just love the intricate details of the crystal diamonds in the actual headlights. If you guys remember, Bentley just showed off the updated and redesigned Continental GT, which has a single headlight housing. I haven't seen it in person, but this just, to me, looks very understated and elegant and timeless. You can see the grille. Compared to the one that I tested last year, this does not have the black line specification, so it has the chrome grille with the vertical slats. It's got the beautiful winged Bentley logo and more chrome at the lower splitter. These are not fog lights. This has to do with the radar sensors for the adaptive cruise control. This already comes with the Touring line specification, so you have adaptive cruise, automatic emergency braking, lane keep assist, all that stuff that you expect, of course, with a Bentley in a vehicle of this price category. And then moving around the side profile, this vehicle is built off of the Porsche, Volkswagen, Audi Group's platform called MSB. It shares that platform with the Porsche Panamera. However, unlike the Panamera, this is a two-door vehicle, so it is a little bit smaller at 112.2 inches in the wheelbase with a 190.9 inch overall length. This is about 8 inches shorter than the Panamera and around a 6 inch shorter wheelbase. But again, it's still a very stately vehicle. It has like near perfect proportions. You can see my particular test car has a 10-spoke 22-inch alloy wheel with a two color finish. You can see multiple spokes. It also has that B logo here that also stays upright when you're driving. That is a weighted logo for an extra $600. The brakes measure 17 inches in diameter, clamped down by 6 piston calipers. The rear rotors measure 15 inches in diameter. You have an all-season tire on my particular test car, a 275 by 35 R22 Pirelli all-season. The rears are even fatter at a 315 wide. This car also comes standard with adaptive dampers with air suspension, but it is missing the active rear steering and the 48-volt anti-roll bar system that is part of an option package. You can see this Azure badge lets you know that it's kind of like a luxury, mid-trim, and then you can see there are some functional vents here, some chrome along the actual lower belt line. The mirror controls, or the power mirrors, are also electrically folding, integrated turn signals, cameras throughout the vehicle. There's also chrome that you'll find on the side of the car as opposed to the black on the Speed that I tested. And then this trim also comes standard with a panoramic sunroof. That's something that the Speed that I tested last year didn't have. It's typically an a la carte option. Sadly, it doesn't open up to vent air. It just has a shade that lets in some light. And then when you back away from the vehicle, you can see just classic, GT proportions here. I think this car just looks really elegant and timeless. I haven't seen the redesigned version yet in person, but this car, even though it's been on the market for 4 years now, still looks new. To me, it still looks really fresh. Now, moving around the rear, you can see this is a very wide car, wide and low, and that's exactly what you expect when you buy a vehicle with a Bentley badge. You can see the taillights also have that kind of jeweled crystal effect. They are a full LED taillight design. There's chrome surrounding the outer portion of the taillight as opposed to the black, accents you get with the black line specification. You can see the Bentley badge back here along with Bentley spelled out. Reminds everybody you have a very prestigious car. There's a deployable spoiler here. This pops out at above 70 miles an hour, or you can push a button in the dash or in the center console that'll make this wing pop out manually if you'd like to have it open all the time. You can see the quad outlet exhaust. Looks very elegant and very powerful, and it also makes a pretty good sound. Let's go ahead and fire it up so you can hear how it sounds real quick. And even though this may be the luxury-oriented version, aside from the low Redline or the low rev limiter in park, it sounds absolutely glorious, very guttural, very powerful, and just very, very imposing. Now, opening up the trunk area, you can see push the little B logo there. There's a power opening and closing trunk. You get around 12.5 cubic feet of storage space back here. You can see the carpeting is very plush. You have these metal accents in here, nice little tie-down areas. You can see the rear seats, sadly, they do not fold down and they don't offer a pass-through. You do get a 12-volt power outlet here, and then if you open this up, you can see your actual 12-volt battery is back here. It's a massive battery. This has to do with the weight distribution by putting it back here, and there's no spare. Instead, you just get a fix-a-flat kit and an air compressor back here. But overall, if you guys are also wondering, the new Continental GT is a plug-in hybrid. The battery pack lives underneath here, which did reduce the cargo capacity to around 9 cubic feet. So that's a reduction of about 30% compared to this 2024 model. So moving on to the interior of this old English white Bentley Continental GT. Before we get inside, however, let me show you guys the key fob. You can see Bentley does their own bespoke key fob for their vehicles, so it doesn't share anything again with an Audi or a Porsche. You can see the key itself looks really nice. It feels really heavy and high quality. I love the big B Bentley logo here with the diamond turned accents that you find on the key fob itself. You can see there's the usual unlock, lock, remote open for the trunk, and panic feature. The key itself is just a little large, but it definitely reminds you have a special vehicle. Now, as you approach the vehicle, you can see when you want to lock the car, you just touch this little area on the door handle. That locks the car, and it also has a really expensive and satisfying little chirp when it locks the car to confirm you've locked it. To unlock it, just touch the back of the door handle and then pull it open there. You can see that will unlock the door for you. Now, my particular test car has a really interesting color combination, the Old English white with a cricket ball and burnt oak two-tone full semi-aniline leather interior. You can see this interior is very befitting of an ultra luxury brand like Bentley. You can see the seats themselves, they are gorgeous. I love the diamond quilting and the perforated leather with the contrast stitching and piping. This is again called cricket ball with the burnt oak accents here. It even spells out Azure on the head restraints. These seats adjust, I believe, in 20 different ways. They are heated, ventilated, and massaging. Again, the massaging and ventilated seats is not something that I found in the Speed that I had last year because it was optional. Thankfully, those features are standard equipment on the Azure trim. You can see all your seat controls are here. They have a nice satisfying click noise to them. Your massage seat is accessed via that little button here. You can also adjust all the bolsters to however your heart's content. And you also have two-person memory on the driver and on the passenger side. So again, ultra luxury features you expect at this price point. You can see, looking at the door panel, my tester has, for an extra $4,000, upgraded semi-aniline leather extending to the door panels. So you can see you have beautiful contrast stitching here. You have this dark burl walnut trim that's open pore that also looks, feels, and smells real. You can see you have some metal trim for the door handles, beautiful diamond quilted leather stitching here, nice and padded here. The leather extends and continues on the entire lower portion of the door panels. It even extends into this actual storage cubby here where it's still wrapped in beautiful soft touch leather. And then you can see my test car for an extra $9,000 has the NAM 18 speaker 2200 watt premium sound system. It's one of the best sounding stereos that I've heard in a while. It also has these beautiful metal speaker covers, and it's just incredible sounding. If you guys get tired of listening to the V8, you're going to really appreciate, of course, the sound system. Now, as I get into the car, you can see the step-in height feels pretty much what I expect it to be for a vehicle that's low, and again, it's a luxury GT coupe. As I get in and shut the door has a wonderfully solid sounding thunk. The seatbelt also pops out to basically hand the seatbelt to me. And if I want, I can also just kind of soft close the door, and it will soft close for me. And then again, there's the seat belt that extends out to basically hand me the seat belt, which is definitely a nice touch. You can see once you're inside this interior, it just feels like you're inside like a vault because it's so quiet in here. And then when you want to start the car up, the start stop button is located right here by the shifter. And this is not a hybrid or a mild hybrid, so it starts up with the same kind of traditional starter noise. As you guys saw, my test car also has the $6,000 rotating display, so it rotated to reveal a 12.3-inch LCD display. I love the steering wheel, which actually is a variation of the wheel that you find in some Audi products, but again, it's got even nicer materials. My test car for an extra $600 has the indented design steering wheel. This is a heated wheel with contrast stitching and perforated leather. I love the Bentley logo here with the metal and chrome accents that you find, actual metal controls for the paddle shifters. The wheel itself obviously is a power tilt telescoping. It's got the same control down here, just like on some modern day Porsches. You can see also the controls here have a bespoke Bentley look to them. They have, again, a high quality tactile and metal feel to them. The window controls also, they have a satisfying metal click, and again, they are bespoke to the Bentley brand, which is what you expect when you're buying a vehicle of this caliber. The horn, it sounds pretty decent, appropriately sized, but also a little nondescript, you know, given that this is how expensive this car is. And then you can see my particular test car also has a heads-up display. There's beautiful leather stitching with the contrast stitching and piping going across the entire upper portion of the dash. More of that dark burl walnut wood, which just looks absolutely wonderful. Some aluminum trim here. I also love the fact that Bentley still uses a lot of actual hard knobs and buttons. Love that, along with the chronograph style watch. And then for an extra $3,000, my test car has the diamond knurled trim along the vents, along the organ pulls to open and close the vents, along the watch face here. Sadly, however, unlike a Rolls, these vents are not full metal. So in a Rolls Royce, you get that satisfying feel here when you start to click your finger, that it makes that clinking sound because it's real metal. Not so in the Bentley, it is just a plastic air vent, sadly. And then over here, you can see this is a cool party trick. Push that little screen button here. It rotates to reveal, again, 3 individual dials for outside temperature, compass, and of course a stopwatch in case you feel like tracking your Bentley, which I don't think anybody would do. Again, there's 3 sides to this. When you have the vehicle shut off, which I'll turn off right now, you can see it'll rotate around to reveal just no panel there to deter, I guess, thieves from trying to steal your actual display. And then when you turn the vehicle on, you can see it reveals the touchscreen portion. You can see down here, there's lots of knobs for your dual zone climate control. Your heated and cooled seat controls are here. You can also turn both at the same time. And then turn on your massage seat. You can see there's 5 different types of massage with 5 different types of intensities. It feels really nice. Again, it's all what you expect in a vehicle of this price caliber. And then you can see in terms of this display, this hasn't really changed. This is essentially running an older software system. It does include Apple CarPlay and Android Auto and Bluetooth capability, but you have to connect the CarPlay via a wired connection in here through a USB-A. So wireless Apple CarPlay was introduced on the 2025 Continental GT with new software, but this 2024 still has the old system. You can see going to the nav display, it is a little bit slow to, activate and scroll through menus and whatnot, but once you go through it, the resolution and quality is about what you'd expect it to be. But again, this is definitely starting to show its age. You can also raise and lower the air suspension. You can also go into your different drive modes. Your drive mode selector is here. You can see there's 4 modes: a Sport, B for Bentley, which is the best driving mode that the car has, Comfort, and then a custom setting. When you go into Sport, you can see, you can really hear the baffle opens up in the exhaust system. And it just has a nice burly sound to it. I love the sound that this V8 actually makes. Now, you can see switching back to the Bentley mode, the vehicle does come with start-stop, which I would actually turn off when I'm driving the vehicle out on the road because I think it's horribly annoying. This little tab here opens and closes or retracts and deploys the rear spoiler, electronic parking brake, stability control off. That's for your PD or park distance control, and there's also, it looks like, an automatic parallel parking feature, which is also kind of unexpected, which is nice. Again, very satisfying clicky noises that you hear when you start using this. And then if I put the vehicle into reverse, you push the B button here to go forward. There's your backup camera. It's a full 360 camera. As you can see, it also gives you trajectory, distance markers, and rear cross traffic braking. You can also go to a front camera, a rear camera, again, allows you to pull up some trajectory. You can go to a side view. You can also go to a panoramic front view and a panoramic rear view. So again, the resolution and quality isn't what I'd say class leading, so I'll be curious to see what the next generation looks like with its newer software system. But again, it's still relatively nice and it gets the job done. You can go here into your apps there, go into the car menu. That's where you can adjust a couple of things. The ambient lighting in this car also looks pretty fantastic. My test car already comes standard with it. You can change it with several different colors. Compared to the Speed, which didn't have ambient lighting, this definitely adds that nice little intricate level of detail at night, but it also doesn't look overwhelming like a cheap Vegas nightclub like you might find in some competing cars. So I really like that nice touch. You can see more of that burl walnut wood is found here in the center console. Open that up, you can see there's a nice cup holder area with a little bit of storage and storage over here. Not much in terms of storage space, but again, this is all very elegant and what you'd expect from a Bentley. You can see there's a nice padded console area here. Open this up, you can see it's a little shallow and small, but you do have your 2 USB charging ports. They're both USB-A's with an aux port and a power outlet. Your wireless phone charging pad is also located here. At least I'm happy with the fact that this does have a wireless phone charging pad. You can see the seats, like I mentioned earlier, look fantastic. They hold you in place nicely. The leather feels plush. The massage and cooled function works well. These seats, again, are covered in a semi-aniline leather. They adjust in 20 different ways. Open up the glove box, you can see that is big. It's a bin style, or it goes into the dash, I'm sorry, and it's like damped and lined with felt. It also smells really nice in here. The attention to detail and build quality is what you'd expect in this car. And you can also see above me here, there's also Alcantara on the headliner, leather covering the sun visors. You have LED map lighting here, and then this big glass roof, as you can see, is dark tinted. It lets in a lot of light, or you can also push a little button here, and that will also close the sunshade there, which again is a very nice touch. Sadly, this doesn't open up to vent air, but I like the fact that this trim at least comes standard with the sunroof because, again, it lets in some light. I will say that the headroom space in this car is a little bit on the tight side with the glass roof, so if you're a taller driver, you're going to have to put the seat down a little bit more. But overall, as you can see, the front seat area is just very, very nice place to spend time with great tech. You can even see that digital instrument cluster. You can kind of change the way that looks. You can even put like a map view in there if you'd like. This is very much a version of Audi's virtual cockpit. However, Bentley did say that they just updated this for the 2025 model year. But let's go ahead and hop into the back seat area of this vehicle because there is a back seat in this car, but it is a little on the tight side. You can see to get back here, you can do this on either side. You basically pull this latch forward, the seat will electrically move forward, and you can see there's basically enough room here for 2 people. There's no middle seat, obviously. Bentley doesn't talk about the legroom space back here, but let me go ahead and get back here and show you guys what the space is like. Now, once you're back here, you can see, pull this seat back. This essentially will come back to where my driving position was, and you can see, woo, my knees definitely are slammed up against this, so I'd have to ask the driver or that passenger to move their seat forward slightly. I'd probably say that this has maybe 28 inches of legroom if I had to guess, but once you're back here, I have to say it is very nice. You can see the seats, they basically, they fit you like a glove. They're essentially 2 bucket seats back here. You have beautiful materials here like leather, more diamond quilting. You have ambient lighting back here, some metal trim, some actual leather stitching above here, which is also nice. You can also actually surprisingly roll this window down if you'd like, so rear seat passengers still kind of get that little control there if they want to roll that window down, which is nice. The one thing I am noticing it's missing is no rear seat air vents back here. That would have been nice to find if you open this up. There's also no armrest here, which would have been nice. There's some leather covering this little rear shelf, and then open this up, you can see there's basically 2 USB-A's, so you can charge up your devices, a 12-volt cup holders, but I think what Bentley should have put back here, especially at this price point, are rear seat air vents, heated rear seats, and a cup holder area here that should have been included, especially when consider, you know, the well over 6-figure price tag of this vehicle. So here we are back behind the wheel of a Bentley Continental GT, the quintessential Bentley. And while the company did just show off a redesigned version for 2025, I wasn't going to turn down the opportunity to spend a full week with basically the final year of the current generation. I have to say, this car, without a doubt, is still one of my favorite uber ultra luxury, you know, 2-door coupes. I mean, if you guys are looking for the ultimate GT car that also has, you know, some hints of fire in its, you know, driving dynamics, remember, this car is built off of the Volkswagen, Audi, Porsche MSB architecture that also underpins the Porsche Panamera. I kind of think of this thing as a Porsche Panamera coupe, and that's precisely how it feels. The last time I was in this car, I was in the Speed version, which was the last model year of the W12, the twin turbocharged 12-cylinder engine. This time we're just driving the Azure, which is the more luxury-oriented touring spec with the standard 4-liter twin-turbo V8. It's the base engine, but it's anything but basic. It's essentially the same engine that you'll find in like an Audi S8 or an Audi RS7 or RS6. Here it makes 542 horsepower, hooked up to Bentley's version of Porsche's PDK. So the company claims 3.9 seconds, 0 to 60. Let's go ahead and see what we can get. It's in sport mode. The car should have launch control. We'll brake torque it. Oh yeah. Oh! Wow, and we just got 3.43 seconds. Now that time is about a half a second faster than what Bentley claims. It doesn't surprise me because remember, this powertrain is all German, and the Germans tend to be conservative with their numbers, and that time is only about 0.4 seconds slower versus the Speed that I tested on that same stretch of road. So yes, the Speed, while it does have considerably more power, like an extra 130-ish horse or 110-ish more horsepower, it really doesn't make that much of a difference. I mean, the Speed definitely has the 12-cylinder sounds, which I have to say I love, but even without the 12-cylinder sounds, this V8 has a nice burly exhaust noise that I really love. I also love the quick shifting 8-speed dual clutch. Let's just try a 0 to 60 here, but I won't launch it this time. We'll just floor it. Definitely not as fast if you don't use the launch control. 3.84 seconds there. So remember, this is more going slightly uphill. You obviously want to use the launch control where it holds the revs at 4,000, then dumps the clutches, and this thing just rockets out of the hole, and it's still bloody fast. Remember, this is still a 4,800-pound GT luxury coupe, but it certainly doesn't feel that way in terms of the acceleration. In terms of the handling dynamics, we've got the adaptive air suspension, not the rear wheel steering or the limited slip rear diff that you get in the Speed version, but you still have a limited slip center diff, and you also have these 22-inch wheels. You have the standard all-wheel drive system, which, put my foot down here. I love the sound of this V8. It's absolutely just sonorous. And you pull the paddle here, it just blips the throttle. There's a little bit of burble from the exhaust. My God, I'm gonna miss this kind of powertrain. Now remember, the new 2025 Bentley now has this 4-liter V8 with more power and a powerful electric motor to deliver 771 horsepower. I am very much looking forward to driving that vehicle hopefully by sometime next year. Bentley, as of this filming, has not announced when the new Continental GT will be arriving in the US, but still, this current generation is still one of my absolute favorite vehicles. It just shrinks when you start tracking your favorite back road and some corners. The steering is light, quick, and direct. Not much in terms of feedback, but still very, very playful. Remember, this is considerably smaller than something like the Rolls-Royce Spectre or the old Wraith, although you can get a sportier driving vehicle if you're looking at like the Aston Martin, for example, or Ferrari, for example. The LC500 also could be, compared to this vehicle, or the new Maserati Gran Turismo. But I have to say, there is something about this Bentley that just feels special. Even though this current one, again, is getting up there, it's getting a little long in the tooth, it still very much makes you feel like you're driving a special vehicle. Even in like sport mode here, the transmission is so quick to shift. The exhaust is fantastic, and this is actually the standard exhaust. There's a sport exhaust available on other trims of the Continental GT. It's also available as an a la carte option. My tester just has the standard sport exhaust, but it just sounds absolutely glorious. It just makes you feel like you're piloting a vehicle that feels special, it feels powerful, it feels effortless. And I'm just absolutely loving it. I am here for this powertrain and for this car in general. I'm gonna try another 0 to 60 run here. We'll just try it for consistency. Launch. The front just lifts up. 3.43 seconds there. So consistent power, consistent launches. Love the PDK that they borrowed from Porsche. It just is the best launch control in the industry. That's just consistent, easy to access, and just absolutely fantastic. But we'll switch the drive mode here. I've been in sport. I'm going to switch it to the B mode, which is the Bentley, programmed mode. That's essentially going to give you the best in terms of ride and handling and in terms of comfort. Now in this mode, I definitely noticed the suspension got a little bit softer. The transmission is a little more eager to go into its higher gears, but at the same time, it's still very, very quiet in here. It's still very plush. The ride quality is just amazing, into where it just soaks up all the bumps and the imperfections, even though we're on these massive 22-inch wheels. Yet at the same time, you can still attack your favorite back road in this vehicle. And that's what I love about the Continental GT, is it has that dual personality. It has, a playfulness that you don't get from some of its rivals, or, some of the rivals are a little bit too sporty and don't have the luxury, quotient down quite as spectacularly as this. Now, obviously there's, you could spend a lot less money and get like a Lexus LC500, and I love the LC, but there is something about this Bentley that feels like it's a step above. The visibility in this car also is pretty darn good. You can see out of the front, the side well, the rear, the view out of the back, the window is a little on the small side. I would love to see Bentley offer a digital camera rear view mirror. This car also comes standard with basically the touring specifications. So we have the adaptive cruise control, lane keep assist, automatic emergency braking, full cameras and sensors. Now Bentley's, a driver assist tech is pretty much the older tech that you'll find in a lot of Volkswagen and Audi products. So they don't offer some of the true hands-free stuff that you're going to find from like a Mercedes, for example, or a BMW, but that's not necessarily the point of a Bentley. The other thing I also love about this car is just the comfort. Now my test car has the optional semi-aniline full leather, the upgraded leather that you're going to get in the dash and the seats and in the door panels. The seats themselves so supremely comfortable. I'm sitting here getting a massage, which is fantastic. There's a little hard button to turn on the massage. There's also heated and ventilated seats. The Azure trim comes standard with that, which I absolutely love and I appreciate. And on a longer road trip, this thing is it just eats up the miles, from the ridiculously quiet interior to the lack of wind noise, lack of road noise, to the supremely comfortable ride. Although some would say it's not as comfortable as a Rolls-Royce, but again, Rolls-Royce has that magic carpet ride. It also costs considerably more. This is pretty darn close, and it has that special feeling from the the really smooth feeling of the leather, to the plushness of the seats, to the smell on the inside. This car just screams opulence. It screams first class luxury, and that's kind of the whole reason why you go and buy a Bentley. In terms of the fuel efficiency, this is the V8 version, so it's supposed to be the more fuel efficient model. Rated at 14 in the city, 22 on the highway. In my week's worth of testing, I averaged around 17 mpg in mixed driving. On the highway, I did get around 23 mpg, which is pretty darn impressive. This thing with its 24-gallon fuel tank, when it was full, on a full tank, it was showing around 525 miles of range. In my actual real world testing in a week, I was getting around 450 miles of range. That's on premium gas. So you're looking at $100 fill-ups depending on the cost of premium fuel. But still, if you can do 450 to 500 miles of range on this thing, that's pretty darn impressive. Now remember, the plug-in hybrid 2025 model should get even better fuel efficiency. Bentley's also claiming more than 30 miles of electric-only range, which is going to be excellent for those of you who plan to drive this thing as your daily driver, which you could easily do so because it's so darn comfortable. But really, even though this model, it's about to be replaced, and this has the base V8, you can't get the new Continental and just the base V8. I'd say if you guys have the funds to be able to afford something like this, even though she's not necessarily the newest car on the bunch or newest vehicle out on the road, this is still a very solidly made, impeccably driving and comfortable vehicle that just feels and looks every bit as special as a lot of its competitors do. And to me, it's been an absolute treat to spend a full week with this vehicle and, of course, and the other Bentleys I've had last year. So in all honesty, for those of you who are looking for uber luxury, I mean, sure, there's a Rolls Royce, which is the ultimate in uber luxury. But if you don't want to spend, $500,000 and you don't necessarily need the, snobbery that comes with a Rolls Royce, I have to say this Bentley is definitely growing to be one of my favorite all-time uber luxury brands. So even though Bentley just introduced an all-new 2025 version of the Continental GT, I have to say, if you guys are looking at this current model, the 2024 here in the US, there is still plenty of things to like about this vehicle. In fact, I've only really just recently had my experiences in a Bentley vehicle as early as last year, but this car company is quickly becoming one of my favorites, and that's because Bentley essentially has some great bones to choose from. You can really feel the fact that this is built off of a Porsche architecture, and the driving dynamics, as you guys saw, 0 to 60 happens in 3.4 seconds with the base V8. It's around a half a second faster versus what Bentley claims, and compared to the old twin turbo 12-cylinder that I tested last year, this is only about 0.4 seconds slower, and it's also around $20,000 less expensive. So really, there's no shame in choosing the V8, so it's no surprise to me that Bentley decided to use this engine paired up with a powerful electric motor for the new Speed, which is now, again, a plug-in hybrid. The look of this car, even though it's been on the market for the last 4 years, is still very understated and very timeless and very elegant. It gets a lot of attention everywhere it goes, especially around my particular area where you don't really see a Bentley too often. If you plan to use this as a daily driver, this is still comfortable and really plush and really quiet on the inside, yet when you put it into sport mode, this thing wakes up and feels a lot like a Porsche Panamera Coupe, which is a wonderful thing to experience. The back seat is a little bit on the small side, especially for the fact how big this car is on the outside, but you can still actually fit 2 average-sized adults in the back seat. But again, get the Continental's 4-door sibling, the Flying Spur, or a Bentayga if you guys need a more practical Bentley. I also am hoping I can get my hands on the convertible version at a later date, because the convertible definitely takes this to the next level in terms of just that, ultra luxury feel with the wind in your hair look to it. Now, of course, if you guys are looking to put this vehicle in your driveway, this is where it's a Bentley. It's going to cost you a pretty penny anywhere you slice it. And the base price for this model is just shy of $250,000 for the base Continental GT at around $245,000. This Azure trim with the V8 is going to cost you at least $291,000, and my particular test car here has about $41,000 in options. One of the most expensive being the Mullinger range, and of course the name audio system for an extra $10,000 or $11,000 for the Mullinger range. But again, $336,630 for the total as tested price is insane. I mean, you could essentially buy a house, depending on where you live, for this kind of money. And also keep in mind, if you want the convertible, it's an extra $30,000. The most expensive Continental GT is like the convertible Mullinger Speed, which is going to be around $400,000. But also keep in mind, I just recently had a Rolls Royce Spectre, which is bigger than this vehicle. You could argue more prestigious. It's also fully electric. The Rolls Royce was roughly $200,000 more expensive than this car, $200,000. And for me personally, I think the Bentley is a much better value. It's still just as prestigious. It's more fun to drive. It's quicker also than that electric Rolls. So there's a lot to like with the Continental GT, and it really gets me excited to eventually spend some time in the new version with its plug-in hybrid V8 powertrain. But with all that said, hope you guys have enjoyed my full overview on the 2024 Bentley Continental GT in this V8 Azure trim. If you're also looking to see the latest cars I'm testing, be sure to follow me on Instagram at Redline_reviews, like us on Facebook, and as always, guys, please keep subscribing to the Redline Reviews YouTube channel for all the latest reviews. Thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you all in the next video.